What up? Hope y'all are doing well. We're here for our midweek alchemy message. We are just unpacking our approach to the spiritual work for the week. And so from the wild unknown alchemy, we have copper, followed by synchronicity, and followed by dissolution. And this was our card last week in the third position, I believe. So this is back, and I always think it's interesting when it's in the same spot. I might be wrong about the position, but this was definitely with us last Wednesday. Underneath copper, we have Knight of Wands. Remember last night when I was... if you guys watched last night's video and we had the fire prince, and I was like, it's giving me like Knight of Wands. Like here we have that same idea again, just being engulfed by passion and enthusiasm and being willing to jump through hoops, for what's important. Under synchronicity, we have Five of Swords. Actually, sorry, I think I mixed the cards. So I think that's what I did. Underneath copper was Five of Cups. And then underneath synchronicity was Knight of Wands. And underneath dissolution, we have 10 of Cups. So I will start with copper. Copper matches my little jumpsuit almost. So copper is a lot like silver, and silver came up recently. They're both precious metals, but they're both they need to be polished. They'll tarnish when they're exposed to the elements. So they constantly have to be polished to maintain their luster and radiance and brilliance. So too are we as a soul in a body where we have the soul consciousness and the ego consciousness that's always warring within us. We're constantly having to stay polished and mind our presence and our awareness of our consciousness. Where is the seed level of our consciousness coming from? Is it motivated from the ego, the desire to receive for the self alone? There is a desire to receive instant gratification, or does the consciousness come from the soul, which is going to have a desire to become a greater vessel of sharing the light, and a vessel that is more like the creator, more unconditionally loving and sharing and creative and constructive and compassionate. So, it's a constant work on earth being a soul. And once we are awakened and we're active players in the game, it's like we realize that it takes a constant effort to maintain our fulfillment and our joy and our inner peace, and to maintain that consciousness that is like the creator's consciousness, that yields the fruits of the spirit, right? That yields patience and peace and faithfulness and goodness and certainty and self-control. So we are in the month of Elul, and this is the month of Virgo, the lunar month of Virgo. And every year, Virgo is the month that precedes Rosh Hashanah. And so Virgo is a month, Elul is a month where we do a practice called Teshuvah. Teshuvah is most closely, translated into the word repentance or atonement, although that sounds heavy-handed, but it's more closely akin to, whereas the meaning of sin is missing the mark. It's like missing the point of it all, right? It's missing the kavod, or the importance of any situation. Kavod is a word for holiness, sacredness. So sin is when we miss the point and we are lost in the wrong consciousness and ego consciousness and what that and the result therein, right? Our reactive behavior, it just causes us to go into downward spirals of negative actions and thoughts and emotions and whatnot. So during the month of Elul, in our practice of teshuvah, of repentance, we do look back on the year and think, okay, you know, where could I have done better? What do I regret? What do I have remorse about? How would I like to correct for that or make it right? Can I atone for that? Can I apologize? Can I seek forgiveness? Can I give forgiveness? Can I rise above my smaller self? Can I break a bad habit or addiction and implement some positive action or habit that is going to maybe be a life-changing habit, right? So it's this kind of self-inventory and changes that we're working on in the month of Virgo. It's about perfecting the soul. And think of it this way. So Rosh Hashanah is the spiritual new year. It's the spiritual head of the year. And Rosh Hashanah is the spiritual head of the year and the spiritual new year because it is the birthday of Adam, the birth of the souls of all mankind, Adam Kadmon. Adam is the seed level of every human soul. Every soul came from Adam, starting with Eve. And so we all share their original experience in the garden when we were in another dimension and in another realm, and we were completely one with the Creator. And we were in a state of perfection, and we had no ego. It was just pure, full remembrance of our divinity and our humanity and full presence and full awareness of the Creator. No shame, no fear, no lack, no doubt, no nothing. So that in that state we were perfected. But when Adam fell, when Adam and Eve fell, we took on shame, and it created density and darkness, and we lost these sparks of light from our soul to the opponent, and it put this shell, a veil across our soul, whereas our soul used to be one and completely connected with our spirit, which our spirit is the perfected version of the light body self. It's the highest self. It's the undefiled, untainted self, the self that has not been touched by the ego. The self that has never changed, the self that is untarnished, unsullied. The spirit self is that pure light from God that is basically put into the context of our individual personality. But the soul is the part that it's changing. It needs growth. It's can have highs and lows, and the soul can have strengths and weaknesses, and it's got complexity, but the spirit is in perfection, and the spirit has direct connection with God and the Holy Spirit. And so the spirit, our spirit within, can guide us towards that perfected destiny that we have, right? Each of us has it's a negotiable destiny, right? Because there's certain destiny points that are sealed, and they're always going to happen. But the moments within those, it's like we get to navigate that and make our own free will choices. And so this basically is like being in an ongoing television series, and every night the director and the production team, the producers, go in and with the editors, and they look at the dailies, right? They look at the replays of the day. What did we get in today's episode? How did the characters grow? Where could they have done better, right? Did they create any negativity that we need to bring into balance the next day? And so basically every night when we go to sleep, our soul goes into the upper realms and has a miniature judgment day. And that's what Rosh Hashanah is. It's a judgment day. It's a day that our soul goes before the upper realms, the judgment, and they look over our year and our sincerity and our mistakes and our failures and our triumphs and where we wanted to. And the triumphs and what I'm talking about are really when we overcome our own self, when we rise out of our easy nature and we try to be more and try to do more and try to expand and realize more fullness and more peace and more love and more joy, more appreciation for this moment. So every year, every night, we go through this process. And so our team is like, well, that she overcame her anger and she forgave someone and she could have evil tongued, but she did not, or he. And so then based on the evaluation of the day, then your script for the next day is written. And so where you may have needed some chaotic processes to turn light into darkness or turn darkness into light for yourself, maybe you overcame some things. And so the next day doesn't require that same kind of chaotic process to go through and to teach you a lesson or to show you something or to get your attention about it. Like it's no longer needed, right? So then that part of the script is taken out and it's replaced with like something, a blessing. So just think of it this way. Every time you are able to heal something within yourself or overcome your own negativity, it's like you just got rewritten for the next day and you get a better storyline for tomorrow. So leading up to Rosh Hashanah, we have this month to say, okay, look back at the year. And before I go before the yearly judge who decides and decrees all your blessings, all of your, everything that's going to happen to you for the next year is decided during Rosh Hashanah. Your destiny for that year to come, the highs, the lows, the triumphs, the trials, the abundance, everything is decided in that moment, and it's put into like the spiritual vault for you. And so that's why, the month of Virgo is so powerful, because that is your last chance to sort of do some extra credit and to really work on yourself and to bring that recent effort to the judge. And, but you have to be sincere, right? You can't be doing the work just to get something in return, because then it's not organic. It's not the same. It's not the same level of light you reveal in that way. So we do our self-inventory and we change the best we can and we elevate what we can while we can during Virgo. And the month of Virgo, the month of Elul, we do our teshuvah. We make our wrongs right. And so at the end of this month, that it all culminates on Rosh Hashanah, where the shofar is blown, and that opens the seal, and we are given a new soul for the year. It's as if our current soul goes up into the upper realms, and it goes before the council, and it gets sort of like a cleansing, like a dry cleaning and an upgrade, and like more brilliance loaded in, and we get basically like an upgraded, turbocharged, cleaned, fresh soul for the year. And so we bring that soul back down into ourselves, and it goes through a process of like laying the grid work and laying the groundwork and having all the wiring and everything set in, and then like different levels of energy start flowing through that are associated with each day between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And so on Yom Kippur, we fast and we abstain from any pleasures of the flesh, so that we share the most affinity with the light. That is when the fullness of the soul is then downloaded into our clean, pure vessel, where we receive the light of the soul. It's like we've been laying the groundwork for the soul, and now the soul is turned on, the modem is hooked up, and now it's like, doot, 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 doot. We're online. Okay, new soul. Yay, who dis? This is our soul for the year. the holiday that follows Yom Kippur is called Sukkot. And so that's another cycle of 10 days, like just like the ones between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. There's another cycle that goes through those same dimensions, and it basically turbocharges the light and the blessing that was downloaded in your new soul. So these high holy holidays are basically spiritual new year. It's our birthday as a soul, as a soul collective on Rosh Hashanah. That's our birthday. And that's when the judgment and the decree happens, and the forgiveness for the year and the atonement and all of that. And then we fast for Yom Kippur, we get our soul, and then during Sukkot, that's a whole nother thing, but it's over the course of like 10 days. You're supposed to be in like a tabernacle, like a temporary shelter with like foliage as your roof, where it, like the light and the rain can get through, possibly. So that is a whole thing to explain in and of itself. But during those days, the light is coming in through each dimension of the soul, bit by bit by bit, and it's giving you even more elevation and joy and love and fulfillment. So copper, it takes constant polishing. So that's what we're doing this month. We're polishing the vessel so that it can contain all of our blessings to come for the year. Now, copper is also associated with Venus, the planet of love, beauty, relationship, security, right? The things that make life technicolor, right? The things that we surround ourselves with that make life rich. The people that we care about, the way that we interact with them and have relationship with them, the way we earn our money, and the way that we treat our money and build security for ourselves and fulfillment. So I love this theme of the polishing. It could have been silver, but it was copper. So I love that. I think that with the more effort that we put in, it's like the symbol of turkey. It's like the more you feed your turkey, the fatter feast you will have come Thanksgiving. So the same for copper. It's like the more that we put an effort into this process and into our healing and into our awakening and into our expansion during this month, the greater vessel we will have to contain all the light that God has intended for us for the year to come. Now, underneath this is the 5 of Swords. And so, again, we are in a constant conflict, a constant battle against our shadow nature. And it's always wanting, like the opponent is always using our shadow nature and our ego to work against us, to try to trip us up. It's using it as a booby trap. Because the opponent doesn't want us to reveal our light. The opponent wants to keep us trapped, and the opponent wants to still our light. And so the opponent doesn't want us to earn those sparks back and reveal that light within ourselves. That would go against the opponent's better interests. And so there, like we said before, there's this constant war going on inside of us of like the spirit is whispering very calmly and urging you into a loving and expansive direction. And then the ego is like feeding you with fear and threats and consequences and what ifs and being competitive and being, having scarcity and creating conflict, right? And so we know the more that we participate and create division and separation, the more we are only cutting ourselves off and dividing ourselves and separating ourselves from God, from the Creator, which cuts us off from our protection, from our blessing, from our favor. So this character talks about in the booklet, she's won the day, she's won the argument, but at what cost? She's left this man permanently wounded in sort of a shell of himself and a shadow of himself. And it's like us, when we want to be right and we keep choosing to vote for our ego's consciousness and we keep reacting in our ego's consciousness and we keep supporting and feeding that ego consciousness, it's like we have this instant gratification in the moment. We feel self-righteous and self-fulfilled but at what cost? Because it leaves us feeling empty and broken and sad and angry and bitter. And so it's like, at what cost? Our ego just breaks us down and keeps us stuck, right? And so it's better to pause in those moments and restrict and say, is it worth it? Is this going to rob me of my peace? Is this going to cut me off from the Creator? Because the more unity I choose, which unity can have disagreement, but it doesn't have malice, right? And the more unity I choose, the closer I draw to the Creator and the more blessing and protection that I have. So we are letting go of grudges, of separation, of harsh, dark, negative things. And we're not stuffing them under the rug either. Like we've worked through these things. We've allowed ourselves to digest them and process. And now it's like, okay, that's a part of my personality or my habits or whatever that I no longer need. I no longer identify with this. It's actually keeping me feeling, it's keeping me from feeling my best. And it's taking away from my, from my experience. And so it's like, I don't need this anymore. And as we make the effort to let go of that darkness and that negativity, then it reveals more and more and more brilliance, more and more fulfillment. And so that simplification helps us distinguish between the two voices that are always battling for our attention. And so when we become more clear about who the opponent is and what the opponent sounds like, then we can get more clear and be able to more confidently identify the very quiet and subtle voice of the Holy Spirit that's guiding us too, or the higher self and the spirit that's guiding us, that's connected to the Holy Spirit. So the universe is always sending us signs and communication and synchronicities. And it takes some discernment to be able to recognize when we're looking for a sign, or when we're looking more into something than is there, or when it's real, when it's legitimate. And then even then, when it is legitimate, where is the sign coming from? Who's sending this message? Because I have a feeling that the opponent knows the signs that we're looking for as well. And I think the opponent can confuse us sometimes. I don't know. But our angelic team, our spirit team for our good, it communicates through synchronicities and signs and messages as well. And so that's why our discernment, our ability to discern, is so important. And it's a skill that takes practice, and it takes, effort in kind of developing those spidey senses and that trust in your gifts over time. But synchronicities are going to be out there, right? So the universe is trying to pull us along towards this higher destiny, and it's going to be sending us signs and little post markers along the way to let us know, hey, you're going in the right direction, right? And it's going to give us that kind of encouragement and confidence that we need to do what it takes to get to where we want to go. Right? When we're not optimistic and we're not really confident that something is going to work, it's like we drag our feet and we don't want to take the steps. But we're learning how we need to take the steps and take the risk, and then the universe will give you the sign. It's like the big ask is for us to take that leap of faith, and then we get to see, okay, something's going to catch me. The net is going to be there. So the synchronicities are going to give us guidance, and it is really important that we are spiritually prompt. Meaning, when we get that sign and we feel that we have confirmation and we feel fairly confident and certain in what we've heard and what we're guided to do, we go ahead and then take that step. When you hear the voice of spirit urging you to do something and you keep putting it off and you keep procrastinating it, that does not encourage spirit to communicate with you as much, because you're not appreciating it, you're not acting on it. But when you are spiritually obedient and prompt, and you actually take the guidance and you put it into action, and you do that quickly, then it's like the spirit gives you even more information and more guidance and more assistance, right? So this is like this courageous character is passionate and bold. And I just like, I keep thinking about the flotilla this week. They've had storms, they've had drones following them. They're having to pull off for like to gather everybody and just do a technical check for all the boats, because they had like that big storm right off the bat. And so a lot of the smaller vessels kind of took a beating. So some had to go back, do repairs, come catch up. So they're going to reconvene, do a technical check, make sure everything's okay, but they're determined. They're going to keep going. And like the governments have put out like statements about it, and they're shook. And it's like, it's crazy. Like I've never seen such courageous acts of valor as we're seeing in this time. I mean, there's been such cowardice acts of evil and wickedness, and yet there are also people rising up doing such courageous things and inspiring things, and they're willing to take the leap and do whatever it takes to do what matters and to do what counts. The victims of the Epstein case, it's like the people, the powers that be are like, oh, why put the victims through that again by bringing out the list? And the victims are all like, bring it out, expose these people. And so the powers that be have been dragging their feet. They've been, saying this and that. And basically the victims have gotten together and they're like, we're going to expose these people. We're going to compile our own list, and we are going to release it to the public. And which is another one of the most courageous things I've ever heard, because they will probably, that will make them a target of, hopefully not, but for possibly put them in a dangerous situation. Like they were calling for people were calling for volunteer security to put around these women if they do decide to go that route, just because like Jeffrey Epstein was murdered in prison. Right? These are the most powerful people in the world that are about to be exposed for doing the darkest, most despicable thing in the world. So it's like all these people are up against these impossible odds, right? But they know that they're guided, and they know that they're being led, and they're having to follow that guidance and that faith, even through the darkness. They're determined. And they're doing whatever it takes to do what counts and what matters, right? And this is on a big scale, and it's also on a micro scale, All right. And then we have dissolution here with the 10 of Cups. And so this is all about dissolving those layers that aren't us, that aren't true to our higher self. What isn't us anymore? What's not going into this next chapter? What is not in this next level for us, the parts of ourself that don't need to go, or coming into awareness about inner conflicting desires or inner conflicting fears that are keeping you from moving forward and having this fulfillment. And so the more of our ego, the more of these layers that we dissolve away, the more fulfillment we will have. And see, this is salt water. This is water. This drawing here. Let's talk about salt water dissolving. And when something dissolves, it's like everything. Then it mixes. It's like you dissolve and mix ingredients. Right? So it's like dissolving the ego and then mixing the soul and the spirit back together again, right? The ego is that veil, that shell that keeps them separate, our spirit and our soul. But when we remove that separation, the veil that keeps them separate, then they dissolve back into one another again. And that's when the soul feels its wholeness and fulfillment. Right? Because it becomes one again with the perfection of the spirit. And so as we have this whole alchemy going on the inside, when we're integrating this change, and this new consciousness, and we are dissolving things and resolving things and letting go and forgiving, and we have this new being that is birthing forth also on the outside in our outer experiences, right? Leading up to this year to come, it's going to hold many blessings, and it's going to bring so much love and fulfillment and abundance and well-being. The 10 of Cups is about domestic bliss and harmony and simple joy and fulfillment and God's rest, being at peace, feeling like everything is in its right place, right? So if you've been wanting healing, if you've been wanting a situation resolved, if you've been wanting to forgive something that you never thought you'd be able to let go, this is the month to do that. This is the month for that. And other people, other creators, other healers that are in different modalities, they're talking about the same things. They just don't realize that they're commenting on things that are happening right now. And I do think that within the usual yearly cycle, we are having a big landmark year where like the old self is just purging away, and we are launching into that new self, that new timeline. It's like it's coming online. It's becoming a real reality. And Feel Good was talking about he was talking about a part of us had left because we just weren't feeling ourselves, and a part of us had left for a while because the other part of us had to navigate some growth experiences and some healing. Well, there is literally the portion of the Torah this week talks about how when we have when the evil inclination takes over, and we have that ego desire that's responding to everything, and it does its damage and it takes its toll, right? So leading up to I lost my train of thought. Oh yes. Feel Good. So he was talking about how, so when we have the evil inclination, this like wickedness that we fall into, it causes our higher light to leave our body, like a part of our soul. It's like a higher part of our soul, it just leaves us. And so we're in a more weakened, vulnerable, exposed state when that part of our soul leaves, when that greater light leaves us. And so he was talking about how it's coming back, and we might feel like we've been going through a lot of physical symptoms recently. And we have to trust our body and trust that it is doing its thing. And that it's, basically other people might call this like ascension symptoms. But, he was talking about like spontaneous healings happening. And my mom had a healing that followed this timeline over the last couple of weeks. She wouldn't be involved in any of this stuff. She wouldn't know about any of it. But she's right on time with everyone else because she's been doing she's had a lot of revelation. It's been changing a lot of things about her recently. And on the other side of that inner healing, she's had a lot of physical healing. To a lot of the some ailments that were undiagnosed by, like, she's been seeing all these teams of doctors and nobody really quite knows what to do for her, and other than just to tell her she's just got to deal with it for the rest of her life. And it was giving her, she was, starting to feel like, I don't know, just determined and faith, but also like on the brink of like hopelessness of just like, oh, is this what I'm going to have to deal with forever? And somebody prayed for her at church recently, and she has had like almost none of those symptoms since. So I was so excited because she had a really nice trip in Florida, and not one day did she have the weird neural stuff happening. And so that's been amazing. So that's been a miracle, but testimony of this inner healing results in an outer healing in our life and in our body and in our relationships, and it just spreads, and it's contagious. It's contagious healing. So have faith, have confidence, have certainty, and use this month to seek healing and to seek elevation and to seek balance and integration, and to seek getting back on the path of your authentic self, of your highest truth, of that expression of who you really, really are. All right, y'all, that is all for tonight. We will be back together tomorrow for our weekly romance oracle message. Till then, ciao, peace, and free Palestine.